I am Rose, the real daughter of the Smith family. My elder sister, Julia, is the fake daughter, but she is the only one in the Smith family who has been kind to me. She said that I am the heroine of this world, the woman standing at the very top, and she is a fairy sent from the heavens to protect me, just like in a fairy tale. The fairy helped the real daughter take control of the Smith family and find true love. At the end of the story, instead of returning to the heavens, the fairy stayed in this world and fell in love with an ordinary man. However, when I rushed back from abroad overnight, what I saw was her broken body that was already beyond recognition. Sorry, Rose, I can't protect you anymore. In the surveillance video, Julia, with a pale face, said her last words and then turned around and jumped off the tall building, without the slightest hesitation. She did it with the determination to die. The more tragic the scene in the video was, the angrier I became. She cared so much about her appearance. When we were kids, I just painted her face with colored pencils, and she was angry for a long time. A fairy should always be perfect and beautiful at any time, but she chose such an undignified way to die. Although I had long known that she wasn't really a fairy at all, she was a woman from another world who came specifically for me. She was my savior, the little sun that dispelled the darkness in my heart, but now she was dead. I walked towards her mourning hall, and the darkness that had long been buried in my heart began to surface. Charles, don't be too sad. If Julia's spirit is watching over us, she definitely wants you to be happy. I stopped at the entrance of the mourning hall. In front of Julia's portrait, beside her beloved husband, stood a woman in a white dress with a light makeup. In the woman's hand, she was also holding a little boy who was about 4 or 5 years old. The little boy looked at the coffin from a distance and pouted. It's all because of this crazy woman who had to die. Now Daddy and Mommy Linda can't take me to the amusement park. I saw the woman smile slightly, then squat down and hug the little boy. Be good, Jack. Daddy and Mommy Linda will take you to play in a couple of days. Witnessing all this, I seemed to understand why my Julia had chosen death so resolutely. I strode into the mourning hall. The person hasn't even been buried yet. And you're already in such a hurry to be a mistress. The woman walked towards me with a smile on her face. Little sister Rose, you're here. I sneered and looked straight at her. What on earth are you? You don't even deserve to call me sister. After saying that, I slapped her across the face. Mommy Linda, Jack rushed up, raising his hand to hit me, but he was deterred by just one look from me and didn't dare to come any closer. And his father, Charles Lincoln, just stared blankly at Julia's portrait in the mourning hall, as if he didn't even notice my arrival. Linda covered her face, showing an apologetic smile, and bowed to me. Sorry, Miss Rose, your sister, your brother-in-law, and I were all classmates and had a good relationship. I thought I might have been impolite. This woman was quite scheming, seeming harmless and taking the initiative to apologize. People who didn't know might think that I, Rose, was overbearing and bullying a weak and innocent woman just because I was the president of the Smith family. My Julia, who was kind and sincere, could never be her match. I had long heard that Charles had a first love that he couldn't get when he was young. It's better to see once than to hear 100 times. Linda, why are you here too? A voice came from behind me. My husband George, who had rushed here in a hurry, walked up quickly. It seemed that he had forgotten that we were still in the mourning hall and directly took Linda's hand. Linda, what happened to your face? Who hit you? Tell me, and I will never let that person go. I almost laughed out loud. I almost forgot that George and Charles were good friends. Linda was also his first love. Linda seemed to gain confidence instantly and looked up at me. I said something wrong and made little sister Rose angry. George turned around and saw me. His face turned pale, and he immediately let go of Linda. Rose, I turned cold and waved my hand forward. The bodyguards behind me immediately stepped forward and slapped Linda again in front of George. The delicate Linda fell directly to the ground, revealing a pitiful face. Rose, what are you going crazy for? George shouted out of control. I just thought it was ridiculous and simply ignored him. George still wanted to come forward, but was stopped by the bodyguards. I strode forward, stepped on Linda's white dress, and pinched her chin. You still haven't learned your lesson. I have only one sister, and that is Julia. Not just anyone can claim a relationship with me, Rose, especially a mistress like you. Before Linda could speak, George James behind me spoke first. Rose, why are you speaking so harshly? I turned around and sneered. George, do you like her too? Just say the word, and I'll let you have her. George's face instantly turned pale. And he quickly said, "Wife. I swear to God that I only love you." I smiled knowingly and continued to look at Linda. She reached out to hold my hand, and I saw the rose diamond ring on her finger. That was the ring for which Charles had drawn the design and asked me to invite an old master in the industry to make it. I went to the old master's place in person and pleaded for several days before he agreed to make the ring. He said it was an anniversary gift for Julia, but now it was on Linda's hand. I was furious and roughly tore off the ring. My hand was so forceful that I scratched 2 bloody wounds on her hand. Sorry, I got a bit excited when I saw my sister's keepsake. Linda just held her bleeding hand to her chest, biting her lip with teary eyes and saying nothing. With this appearance, not only Charles, but I'm afraid even Julia would feel sorry for her if she saw it. After all, whenever she heard about the days when I was bullied, she could cry her eyes out, as if it was her, not me, who was being bullied. But her kindness should never be a reason for her to be bullied. Seeing the wound on Linda's hand, Jack couldn't hold back first. He rushed over and stood in front of Linda, blowing on her hand. "It's okay, Jack, I'm not in pain." But Jack became even angrier. He turned around and glared at me viciously. "This beautiful ring was given to Mommy Linda by me. That crazy woman's hands are so rough and ugly that she doesn't deserve to wear it at all. Mommy Linda's hands are so beautiful. And that crazy woman also agreed to give it to Mommy Linda. Why are you bullying Mommy Linda?" I looked at the scene of the loving mother and filial son in front of me with cold eyes. If it weren't for Julia, I wouldn't even look at the people of the Lincoln family. Jack was halfway through his words and actually tried to rush over and hit me. But as soon as he got close, I slapped him to the ground with a clean slap. Slap. The clear sound of the slap shocked everyone. It seemed that no one expected that I would really be so ruthless to a child. "You also don't deserve to have anything to do with my sister, do you understand? If you dare to move again, I will make you die 100 times more miserably than my sister." Jack was so scared that he forgot to cry and could only look at me in fear as I walked towards the coffin in the center of the mourning hall. "Take my sister away and leave this dirty place. Leave these despicable people, just like many years ago, when she took me away from that hellish rental house. I am the real daughter of the Smith family who was lost. Before I was 9 years old, I lived in a narrow and stinky rental house with a gambler. I was always hungry every day. And I almost froze to death and starved to death in several winters. Every time the gambler lost money, he would get dead drunk and beat me with his fists and feet just to vent his anger. I waited every day for a chance to kill the gambler. Finally, that day came. But when I raised the kitchen knife and was about to strike, Julia came. She was wearing a beautiful princess dress and pushed open the door of the rental house. For the first time, there was light in the dark and stuffy rental house. She rushed in and snatched the knife from my hand, ignoring how dirty and smelly I was. She hugged me tightly in her arms. However, my biological parents frowned, covered their noses and mouths, and stood far outside the rental house. Their eyes were full of disgust, as if I was some unwanted trash. After my biological parents took me back to the Smith family, they left directly. In their eyes, I seemed to be just an insignificant person, but she cried for a whole day. She cried for my thin body, for the scars all over my body, and for my tragic experience. It was annoying, but strangely, I didn't dislike it. At night, with the thunder rumbling, she carried her quilt and ran to my side. "I'm scared, you have to protect me tonight." She lifted my quilt and patted my back, just like a mother coaxing a child. I hugged her and asked, "Aren't you afraid of me? You're my sister. Why should I be afraid of you? I'm capable of killing people. The day you came, I almost killed that gambler. Don't do that next time. When you meet bad people, you should leave instead of getting yourself involved." On the first day of school, the girls in the class laughed at me and posted photos of me being beaten until my head was bleeding in the rental house before. That memory made me lose control. I went crazy and picked up the desks and chairs and beat them all until they were bleeding from the head. When my biological parents came, they directly slapped me twice and asked me to apologize to those beasts. I didn't move and just stared at them. My father was furious and casually picked up the glass pen holder on the principal's desk. "Rose, if I had known you were so disobedient, I might as well have let you die there." It was she who rushed over and stood in front of me, taking the pen holder that my father threw at me. The pen holder shattered, and she protected me, saying, "My sister is not at fault. They bullied her first." She raised her phone and played the surveillance video in the classroom. In the video, the people I had beaten pushed me to the ground, threw my embarrassing photos at my face, and insulted me with all kinds of words. They should apologize to my sister, since the families had business dealings with each other. My father decided to play it down and let the matter go. She hugged me and cried again, feeling indignant for me. "Why are you so good to me?" She smiled and replied. "Because the heavens saw that you had such a hard life and sent me, this beautiful and kind fairy, down to protect you. Aren't you afraid that I'll hit you like I hit them?" "No, because fairies aren't afraid of pain." She said that I would be the happiest and most powerful person in the future. She would protect me, guard me, and keep me away from all the bad people and things. Later, she could always appear at the crucial moment and help me all the way to the position of the president of the Song Corporation. With her help, I became someone that others had to please. I also married George, who loved me wholeheartedly and doted on me. My mission is completed, and it's time for me to go. But she still stayed, because of Charles. When she looked at Charles, she would always show a sweet smile. I was happy, after all. I wanted her to stay, but I was also worried. Because I had heard a lot of stories about Charles and Linda at school. "Don't worry," he said, that he will only love me. But what if Linda comes back and he falls in love with her again? I believe in Charles. Charles also assured me repeatedly, "I will only love Julia in my life and will never let her down. If I break this oath, I will die a bad death." The happier she was when she was with Charles, the more desperate she was when she left. Suddenly, a shout brought me out of my memories. "I won't allow it. Why are you taking Julia away?" When Charles saw that I was going to take my sister away, he finally came to his senses. His eyes were blood red, and he pushed away the bodyguards and stood in front of the coffin. "She is my wife and will always be my wife. No one can take her away." The bodyguards knew that he was George's good friend and didn't dare to really do anything to him. They didn't dare. But I did. I took out a knife from my bag and walked straight towards Charles. When I stabbed at him, Linda rushed over. The knife stabbed into her palm, and blood immediately gushed out. "Rose, you crazy woman!" Behind me, George pushed me away forcefully. I lost control of my body and directly hit the corner of the table. In a daze, I saw George hug Linda and nervously tell the bodyguards to call a doctor. "Very well, it's really great." When I woke up in the hospital, George wasn't by my side. When I followed the bodyguards to the door of Linda's ward, I saw 3 men. 2 adults and 1 child, all gathered around Linda. Rose was just unable to accept it for a while, so she was so impulsive. "When she wakes up, I'll make her come and apologize to you." It was my husband who was speaking, the one who kept saying he loved me. "Linda, it's all because of me. I'm sorry." While saying sorry, he had already fed the porridge into Linda's mouth. "You too, it's fine on normal days. But how could you let Linda appear at Julia's funeral, George? I didn't think that much. Why didn't you take good care of Julia and cause all these troubles? Linda and I are innocent. I don't know why Julia would think of committing suicide." "Innocent." The photo of you 2 lying in bed naked was even sent to Julia's phone. If I hadn't found out and deleted it in time, do you think you could still be sitting here? "George, thank you. If it weren't for Linda, I wouldn't even bother with you." I stood outside the ward and clearly heard the voices inside. My fingers dug into my flesh. "Sorry, it's all because of me that I've put you in a difficult situation." Linda was crying. "Linda, it's not your fault. You don't have to blame yourself. Little sister Rose is still angry now. What are you going to do, brother George? She loves me. I'll just coax her a bit." I had never thought that George had known everything from the very beginning. Since that's the case, I have nothing to worry about anymore. I will let you know what a real crazy person is. I will make you all be buried with her. Through the window of the ward, I saw them smile at each other. Yes, they loved each other, while my Julia could only lie in the cold coffin, lonely and desperate. "No way, you don't get to have an easy time." I turned around and left, going back to my ward. It wasn't long before George came back. There was a forced smile on his face as if nothing had happened. "This is your favorite seafood congee. I bought it early in the morning, and it's still warm." He opened the lid and tried to feed me. I smiled at him, then picked up the seafood congee and directly poured it over him. "Rose, do you know that you're acting like a shrew now?" he shouted. "I'm allergic to seafood." Who is the one who likes seafood congee the most? He was at a loss for words, and his anger vanished immediately. "Sorry, Rose. I was in such a hurry that I remembered it wrong." I remained silent. "Rose, things have come to this. Your sister is already dead. Don't be unreasonable anymore." Charles is already in so much pain. If you take Julia's body away, he won't be able to go on living, I sneered. It would be a good thing if such a despicable person couldn't live. It would be best if he died right away. And, hasn't he already found another woman? Looking at my teasing expression, George was clearly flustered. They are innocent, I promise. I looked at George and couldn't help laughing out loud. I won't let this go. And I definitely won't let that woman off. George's voice suddenly rose. No way. If you like her, we can get a divorce. I'll let you have her. Rose, how can you doubt my feelings for you? Linda and I are just classmates. Don't be unreasonable. Unreasonable. George seemed to realize that he had said the wrong thing and quickly coaxed me in a low voice. Your sister committed suicide. Just have some pity on Jack. The only bloodline of your sister. He has already lost his mother. Don't pursue this anymore. Fine, really, of course it's fake. I smiled, and George couldn't figure out what I was thinking. I won't let them have an easy life. No, what on earth are you? Get out of here. The bodyguards rushed in and pulled George away. I asked the bodyguards to guard my sister's mourning hall and didn't allow anyone to pay their respects, especially the people from the Lincoln family. Charles Lincoln was shouting at the door. Julia is a member of the Smith family. Now she has nothing to do with you. No, she is my wife, the only wife I, Charles, will have in my life. I didn't care what he was saying. Instead, I called a team of bodyguards and a construction team and headed straight for the Lincoln family's residence. The nanny of the Lincoln family had long been fed up with the behavior of the father and son of the Lincoln family. I just told her to take out the things that Julia had bought. She immediately led the bodyguards and moved out all the things in the villa. The dress this woman is wearing, as well as the necklace and earrings she's wearing, were also bought by Miss Julia. I looked coldly at the woman standing behind Charles and beckoned to the bodyguards. The bodyguards immediately pulled Linda over, and I kicked Linda in the knee. Linda knelt down with a thud. And I unceremoniously tore off the necklace around her neck. She reached out to grab it. This was given to me by Brother Charles. It's mine. I ignored her and tore off the earrings from her ears. Linda let out a cry of pain, and there was blood on her ears. This is the consequence of stealing other people's things. Strip her clothes off too. The nanny immediately started to do it, but George rushed over and shielded Linda behind him. Rose, don't go too far. Why didn't you think they were going too far when they joined hands to drive my sister to death? Enough, look at what you're like now. What's the difference between you and a madman? I am a madman. I walked over, grabbed Linda, and started to strip her clothes off myself. Who does Linda think she is? She doesn't deserve to wear my sister's clothes. But as soon as my hand touched Linda, George grabbed my hand. He was furious and slapped me. I just calmly turned my head and looked at him. He avoided my gaze and was clearly lacking in confidence. Rose, how could you become so vicious? You were so kind before. I threw my head back and laughed, then raised my hand and slapped George's face to the side. It's not your place to lecture me. George looked at me in disbelief, as if he had never known me at all. Linda covered her chest, looking wronged. Brother Charles, Brother George, save me. The bodyguards surrounded the two of them. And I took off the dress Linda was wearing and threw it into the pile of clothes in the yard. Rose, I never thought you were such a heartless woman. George put his coat on Linda and held her in his arms. I didn't care what he was saying and took out a lighter. Charles immediately realized what I was going to do and rushed up like crazy to stop me. Stop, Rose, stop. Julia said that she wasn't from this world. She didn't die. She's just angry with me. She loves me, and she'll come back to me. She's just acting up with me like she used to. His eyes were red, and tears were streaming down his face. But I was even angrier. Julia had told him her secret, so he felt secure in his actions. Now that she's dead, he's pretending. I threw the lighter into the pile of clothes and furniture, and a huge fire started to burn. Charles's eyes were bloodshot, and he struggled to rush into the fire to grab things. I walked up to him, grabbed his hair, and forced him to look at me. Charles, do you remember your promise? Charles trembled all over, and his face turned pale. You said that you would only love Julia in your life and would never let her down. If you broke your oath, you would die a bad death. He collapsed to the ground, and I let go of my hand. Get to work. Tear this place down for me. At my command, the construction team started working with a rumble, but Linda let out a scream. Rose, even if those things were bought by your sister, what right do you have to tear down Brother Charles's house? I looked at Linda sarcastically. Just because I bought this villa, Linda staggered back 2 steps and then tightly grabbed George's sleeve. She thought I would be jealous and go crazy, but I didn't care at all. Just then, the villa collapsed with a crash and became a pile of ruins. Just like my heart at this moment, Auntie is a bad person. Jack sat on the ground and cried loudly. I beckoned to him. Jack, come here. Jack is the child of Julia and me. Come at me, don't you dare hurt him. Charles hugged Jack. He probably realized the madness in my bones. He was afraid that I wouldn't spare even the bloodline of him and Julia. Jack, how about I let your father marry your mommy Linda? Is that okay? Linda's eyes lit up. She didn't expect that I wouldn't stop them but would even try to them. It's impossible. I only have Julia as my wife in this life. I will never remarry. But Jack immediately agreed. Okay, I want mommy Linda to be my mom. Charles immediately shouted angrily. Jack, you only have one mother, and that is Julia. Jack immediately glared at Charles. Bad dad. I want mommy Linda. Didn't you say that that crazy woman smells of cooking oil all day long, and she's ugly and annoying? Not as beautiful as mommy Linda. I don't care. I want mommy Linda to be my mom. I don't want that nagging and ugly woman. After saying that, Jack directly pushed Charles away and grabbed Linda's hand. Mommy Linda, will you be my mom? Linda couldn't wait, but because I was there, she didn't dare to agree immediately. I looked at George with a half smile. Is this what you call innocent? George finally came to his senses and immediately let go of Linda. Wife, I was wrong. I didn't expect Charles to be such a person. He pointed at Charles angrily and cursed. Charles, we've been friends for so many years, and you actually lied to me, and you, Linda, I thought of you as an old classmate and spoke up for you, even hurting my wife who loves me the most. I watched him pretending coldly and didn't have the heart to expose him. You two get married. I wish you a lifetime of happiness, Jack. From now on, you'll be Linda's child. Don't mention my sister's name. I won't. I hate that shrew. Good, very good. George was at my beck and call every day, like a dog. Wife, I was deceived by them. I'm sorry. Don't be mad at me, okay? Wife, this is your favorite sweet and sour spare ribs. Come and have a taste. Wife, I love you so much. You love me too, right? I looked up at him, of course. So don't make me angry. You know, I'm too busy trying to make my wife happy. How could I make you angry? I brought my sister's ashes home. Charles came to beg several times, but I didn't let him in. The last time, he knelt at the door, and Linda was standing beside him. She triumphantly raised the diamond ring on her hand at me, looking like a winner. I directly told the bodyguards to throw the two of them out. I don't know what means Linda used to make Charles agree to get married, but this is exactly what I want. Linda wants to marry into a wealthy family and live a good life. She even drove my sister to death. How could I let her get what she wants? When the parents of the Lincoln family were still alive, the Lincoln family was indeed prosperous for a while. Otherwise, Charles couldn't have become good friends with George. But after the parents of the Lincoln family died, the Lincoln family quickly declined. If it weren't for Julia, I wouldn't have helped at all, and the Lincoln family's company should have gone bankrupt long ago. Charles doesn't know how to manage the company at all and only knows how to enjoy himself. Over the years, the father and son have been leeching off Julia. They probably have forgotten their own capabilities. I called my secretary and asked her to directly terminate the cooperation with the Lincoln family. Not only do I want to terminate it, but I also want Charles to pay back everything he has enjoyed from Julia over the years. On the third night, I was sleeping when George's phone rang. I didn't move. George picked up the phone and tiptoed to the living room. I got up and followed. In the empty living room, Linda's crying could be heard. Brother George, something happened to Brother Charles. A lot of people came and took away the Lincoln family's villa. We were driven out, and now we're homeless. George comforted her gently. Linda, don't worry. Ask Charles to take you to my apartment first. But, Brother George, what about my wedding? Everything was already prepared. If we don't have the wedding this month, it won't look good when my belly gets bigger. Don't worry, Linda. I'll take care of your wedding with Charles. Thank you, Brother George. I knew you were the best to me. I didn't listen any further and turned back to the bedroom. On the day of Charles and Linda's wedding, a lot of people came, although they had also heard some rumors about me and Charles. Seeing that George was helping to make arrangements, they all showed their respect, of course. I also went. I took the hotel side passage and sat in the guest seat early. I asked the secretary beside me to write down all the guests who came to the wedding one by one. Even a fool would know that there must be something fishy about Charles remarrying so soon after his wife's death. But they all thought that the one who died was the fake daughter of the Smith family, and she was insignificant. They thought I wouldn't care. They talked freely about the tragic way she jumped off the building and burst into laughter. They casually compared her with Linda and belittled her to the ground, making her seem worthless. The bodyguards wanted to step forward to stop them, but I stopped them. The whole hall darkened, and the lights shone on the door of the auditorium. The door opened, and George escorted Linda in. He put Linda's hand into Charles's hand. "Take good care of Linda." Charles took it. When the master of ceremonies asked if he was willing to marry Linda and make her the only wife in his life, the man who not long ago was crying and saying that he would only have Julia as his wife nodded solemnly. It was extremely ridiculous. Jack circled around Linda, calling her mom over and over again. They were having a great time here, with the family being harmonious and happy. But I've already said that none of these people will get to live a good life. I shook the wine glass in my hand. And the whole auditorium immediately darkened. Behind Charles and Linda, the screen lit up. In the picture, Charles and Linda were lying naked on the bed, hugging each other tightly. "Brother Charles, do you like me more or Julia?" "Of course you, baby. That stupid woman is always researching some nutritious meals all day long. She's so nagging and annoying. Unlike you, you're so elegant and beautiful. But she's the young lady of the Smith family. She's just a fake. Does she know that this is what you say about her behind her back? It doesn't matter if she knows. She loves me. I can just buy her a gift and coax her, and she'll be so happy that she'll forget everything. You're so bad. I'm even worse. Do you want to try?" Then, there was a scene and sound that were too vulgar to hear. The privacy of the two of them was exposed in front of the guests without reservation, instantly causing an uproar. George and the others were stunned, and only Linda rushed to block the screen in a state of collapse. She shouted hysterically, Who is it?" I stood up, put on my sunglasses, and let out a soft laugh. Linda recognized my voice. "Rose, why are you doing this to me? Why?" She looked at me angrily, as if she was really the victim. "Why, don't you know the reason in your heart?" The auditorium lit up brightly, and all eyes were on me. I raised my chin and tilted my head, smiling at the crowd. "Everyone, enjoy your meal. Tomorrow, you might not be so leisurely. I won't delete this video. I'll keep it well so that your parents and relatives can also admire your heroic appearance." After saying that, I turned around and left with a smile, leaving only the crisp sound of my high heels echoing. Behind me, the noisy voices rang out again. "Mr. George, we all came here because of your face. You've really gotten us into trouble, Mr. George. You and Ms. Rose are husband and wife. You have to help us. Don't leave. Stop. Today is my wedding of the century. Brother George, Brother Charles, my wedding." Then, Linda's scream sounded. My stomach hurts so much. "Call an ambulance quickly, Linda." There was great chaos in the auditorium. But what did it have to do with me? My secretary followed behind me and asked uncertainly, "Ms. Song, are you really going to take action against so many companies?" I pushed my sunglasses and the corners of my mouth turned up. "Of course, to allow me to be myself at all times. My sister helped me reach the peak of this world. This means that I don't care about just dozens of companies." "Then, what about the James family group?" "I'll take care of the James family group myself." Yes, on that day, most of the companies of those who attended the wedding were reported tax evasion. Some others were exposed with scandals, and their stock prices plummeted all of a sudden. Outside the Smith family's villa, there were crowds of people. I stood by the window and looked at them coldly. They were not clean. I will always remember their ridicule, sarcasm, and belittlement in the auditorium. Everything was what they deserved. The secretary came in to report that some people had turned to the James family for help. When George called, his voice carried a hint of pleading. "Rose, Linda lost her baby. Aren't you satisfied yet? Is it related to me? I'm just giving back what she did." After I repaired Julia's phone, I learned that the reason she had a miscarriage was that Linda had sent her that disgusting video of them. "Rose, I've just realized that you're a cold-blooded monster at the core. Sharing the same bed with you for so many years, I feel so scared, so terrified." "Oh, then come back and sign the papers." "What do you mean, divorce? It's impossible." "Rose, I love you. I can't live without you. I won't get a divorce." In a panic, he hung up the phone. When I called back, his phone was already turned off. George didn't dare to come and see me at all. He knew very well that I was really angry this time. He thought that he could rely on my love to help Linda again and again. He regarded me as a fool like Julia, who was willing to sacrifice everything for love. When Julia was still alive, I could pretend to love him and forgive all his mistakes. I didn't care at all about the relationship between him and Linda, but I couldn't tolerate that. Knowing everything, he still chose to help the evildoers and drove Julia to her death. As soon as Linda and Charles were discharged from the hospital, they were retaliated against and almost ended up in the hospital again. They fled in fear but found that they couldn't get into the apartment that George had lent them. Linda called George, but he didn't answer at all. In desperation, penniless, they could only hide in a small rented room. Having offended too many people, Charles couldn't even take a single step without me taking action. He couldn't find a job. Even if he found a labor-intensive job, he would be fired the next day. He could only lie in the rented room all day long, regretting and feeling decadent. Linda found it the hardest to accept. She couldn't believe that what she had schemed so hard for was the life she was living now. Not only did she not live the life of a wealthy lady, but she also had to work to support Charles and Jack. Her originally fair hands became swollen and ugly. Day after day, she waiting for George to rescue them from their difficult situation. But what awaited her was endless housework, Jack who disliked her, and Charles who was often dead drunk. Linda once asked Charles to bring Jack to see me. Jack was crying with snot and tears all over his face. "Auntie, I was wrong. I miss my mom." "Linda is your mom. You've got the wrong person." Those false tears almost made me cry. I asked the bodyguards to throw them far away, afraid that they would dirty Julia's eyes. After Jack went back, he cried and fussed every day, wanting to live in a big house and eat in a high-end restaurant. "It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Auntie wouldn't be angry. I could have whatever I wanted. You're a bad woman." In return, he received slaps and beatings from Linda, who was desperate and angry after her dreams were shattered and under the torment of life. They would torture and resent each other in such a suffocating and desperate life. As for George, I directly sued for divorce. As soon as the news came out, the stock price of the James family group plummeted. Taking the opportunity, I directly acquired most of the shares of the James family group. George came to the Song residence as soon as possible. "Rose, do you really not care about the relationship between us as husband and wife? When you helped Charles and Linda and drove my sister to her death, did you care about the relationship between us as husband and wife?" I sneered at him. "You clearly knew everything, but you still sided with Linda and Charles. You're more hateful than they are." "I was wrong, Rose. I've stopped contacting them now. Please believe me, it's too late. From the moment you sided with them, you should have expected this day." I threw out the divorce agreement, and he knelt at my feet. "Rose, give me a chance to make up for it. I love you, and you love me too. If you don't sign, I have plenty of ways to make you sign obediently." In the end, he signed and left the house with nothing. On the day he got the divorce certificate, he had a beard and looked as if he had aged dozens of years. All of a sudden, he grabbed my sleeve. "Rose, if I had told you everything and stopped Julia's death, would we have been happy for the rest of our lives?" After a moment of thought, I nodded. "But you chose Linda, didn't you?" He closed his eyes in pain. "Are you ready to face your despair?" His face was ashen, and there was no light in his eyes at all. "Rose, did you ever love me, even a little bit?" Looking into his pleading eyes, I smiled. "Never." He also smiled. "So it was all my self-deception. I thought you were like Julia." Unexpectedly, in the end, I was the fool. I was so stupid as to think that you loved me and would forgive me. I took over all the properties of the James family, including all the private properties of the James family. I won't give him a chance to make a comeback, not even a little bit. A month later, I saw the crazy George on the street. Half a year later, there was a fire in a rented room. It was said that a child playing with fire had ignited the curtains in the room, resulting in severe burns for the whole family of 3. On the day I passed away peacefully, I saw a beam of light. When I opened my eyes, there was an extra hand in front of me. A familiar voice sounded above my head. "Sister, let's go home." I looked up and saw a young but familiar face with a familiar smile on it. I nodded and held her hand tightly. "Okay, it might thunder tonight. You have to protect me, okay?" After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, Let's continue to see another similar story. When my biological parents found me, the fake young master and the fake young lady were following behind them. My mother introduced to me with a guilty look. After you got lost, your father and I were so sad, so I adopted your brother. And your father adopted your sister, Nina. From now on, they will be your real siblings. Okay, I looked at those extremely similar faces and spoke innocently and naively. Of course we are real siblings. After all, brother looks just like mom, and sister looks just like dad, only I'm different. I look like both dad and mom. As soon as I finished speaking, the expressions of everyone in the family changed, and I smiled. What fake young master and fake young lady? They are just giving a legitimate status to their respective illegitimate children. In my previous life, I was law-abiding. But I was driven crazy by the joint efforts of the fake young master and the fake young lady. They made my parents drive me out of the house, and I died a miserable death on the street. This time, none of them will be able to live. These well-matched parents, and the ambitious young master and young lady, were all frantically trying to hide their panic. Finally, Wendy was the first to break the silence. Sister, you just got home today. You must be tired from the journey, right? She came up and took my hand, trying to change the subject. I didn't object. After all, I didn't intend to expose them directly. What I wanted was just to plant a seed of doubt in the hearts of all of them. Before I can gain a firm foothold here, no matter how chaotic it is, I won't get any benefits. So I walked with her to the corner of the second floor. She pushed open the door and, just like in my previous life, pointed at the large room of 50 square meters and said with a smile, "This is the largest room in the house. I used to live in it. Since sister is back, I naturally want to return it to its rightful owner. I heard that sister often has nightmares, so I sewed this pillow for you with my own hands. There are soothing spices inside, which are most suitable for sister. By the way, I also had the room renovated. I hope sister will like it." She smiled charmingly and gently shook the arm of the fake young master, Lucas. The latter stared at me with a very unhappy expression. Yeah, Wendy spent several nights making it. Don't be ungrateful and let down her good intentions. Hearing this, the smile on my face grew wider. It's just stuffing some hallucinogenic spices into the pillow. Is it necessary to spend several nights on it? Although it had made me restless on countless nights and even caused me to suffer from severe mental illness. But this time, I still gladly accepted it. Then thank you, little sister. But this room is too big. I'm not used to sleeping in such a big room. Wendy suddenly looked a little flustered. How can that be? I interrupted her directly and picked up the pillow. I'll take the pillow. I'll ask mom and dad to arrange another room for me. After that, I went downstairs. In the early stages of my mental illness in my previous life, I had already felt various physical discomforts. Who knows what other unknown surprises are waiting for me in the room. I don't dare to sleep in the room renovated by Wendy anymore. Downstairs, my parents asked me with a smile, "Nina, how is your new room? Do you like it?" I also smiled brightly. "Mom and Dad, the room is very nice, but I don't want to take away my sister's things. The small storage room in the east, I can clean it up and live in it. I haven't been by your side to fulfill my filial duties for so many years. It's a pity that I can't afford to buy you gifts. This is the pillow my sister gave me. I'll give it to you as a gift. I heard that there are spices in it that can help with sleep. I hope you have good dreams every night." Then, I directly stuffed the pillow filled with spices into their arms. This time, my parents hadn't been disappointed in me yet, so they were deeply moved and held my hand tightly, not wanting to let go. "Nina, it's our fault that we didn't take good care of you, which made you get abducted by human traffickers. You've suffered outside all these years. There are 3 million in this card. If you want anything, just ask your brother to take you to buy it. Mom and Dad will definitely make up for what we owe you." After that, my mother even took off the gemstone necklace around her neck and put it on me with a loving face. "This is my favorite necklace. Now I'm giving it to Nina. Okay, at the banquet tomorrow, you can wear it. We want everyone to know that our precious daughter is back." Wendy and her brother, who had chased after us, stared at the card and the necklace, and jealousy and coldness flashed in their eyes. "Sister, I gave this to you, and Mom and Dad are older, so the spices they use must be different. I can just make another one for them." I also smiled. Dad is very busy with work, and Mom has serious insomnia. These spices are also good for them. If you're really worried, sister, Mom and Dad, why don't you ask a doctor to take a look at this pillow? In case there is, my words were interrupted. And Wendy said nervously, "That's not necessary, even if the spices are not beneficial, they won't do any harm either, I said first, in that case, Mom and Dad, just use it with peace of mind, don't you like the gift I gave you?" Hearing this, they hugged me even tighter. How could we not like it? "Nina, Mom and Dad will hold it and sleep with it every night." "Nina, don't live in the storage room, just live in the south room. It was originally a guest room, if you don't like it, we can renovate it again." Wendy's face turned much colder, and she didn't say anything more, and Lucas also wanted to say something, but after receiving a look from Wendy, he shut up. My mother spoke again. She glanced at Wendy indifferently, and her tone was much colder than in my previous life. "Take your sister to her room. Tomorrow she will attend the banquet, and you will be in charge of her dressing up." Wendy was stunned for a moment and said aggrievedly, "Mom, what's wrong with you? Did I do something to make you angry, or is it that now that sister is back, you don't want me anymore?" I raised my eyebrows knowingly. It seems that what I said made my mother suspect Wendy's identity. Sure enough, my mother just smiled. "How could that be? From the moment your father adopted you, we will take care of you for the rest of your life. By the way, you were already 4 years old when you were brought back. You haven't told us about your biological parents yet. Do you still remember them?" Wendy was stunned, and my father quickly came to her rescue. "You were so young at that time. What could you remember?" "Okay, Wendy, hurry up and take your sister to her room." Wendy left. No one noticed that my mother plucked a few of her hairs with her fingertips. In Wendy's room, she gave me a dress. "Sister, this is a custom-made evening dress I had before. It's inlaid with 5 diamonds and is very beautiful. Try it on." The evening dress was indeed very beautiful, with a hollow design. It was noble, gorgeous, and glistening, which was very suitable for the identity of the real young lady of the Duncan family group. It was this dress that made me the laughingstock of the whole city the day after I got home. My parents' guilt towards me was quickly replaced by anger after they lost face, and this time, I'm going to make them dig their own graves. After changing into the dress, she took me in front of our parents. "Mom and Dad, how's my taste?" They pulled me and looked at me again and again, then nodded. "Not bad, not bad, they are all blue diamonds. Nina looks elegant and decent in it." The corners of Wendy's mouth twitched slightly. "Sister, the diamonds on this are very precious. You'd better change out of it first and wear it tomorrow." I followed her back to the room. After changing my clothes, she naturally took the evening dress. This dress needs to be maintained, and the process is very complicated. To ensure that everything goes smoothly tomorrow, it's better to leave it with me for now. I didn't refuse either and smiled at her. "Wendy, thank you. But since you gave the dress to me, what will you wear tomorrow?" She pointed at a light blue evening dress in her closet. "Tomorrow is sister's welcome banquet. Of course I won't steal your limelight. I'll just wear this one." I tilted my head, looking confused and innocent. "But this one doesn't look very expensive. If it's too plain, will Mom and Dad feel embarrassed?" A trace of disgust flashed in her eyes, and her tone carried a hint of pride that she didn't even realize. "Don't look at it being simple. It's not cheap either. It's at least worth more than 2 million. Since she doesn't want to steal my limelight, why wear an evening dress worth millions?" The corners of my mouth twitched slightly. "Then I'm relieved. She loves to show off. This time, I'll let her show off to her heart's content." In the afternoon, Lucas took me to the mall and perfunctorily bought me some daily necessities. After getting the newly bought mobile phone, he quickly took me to a jewelry store. After selecting a few ordinary pieces of jewelry, he handed me a form and asked me to sign it. I just took a look at it. "What is this?" he urged impatiently. "You have to sign when buying jewelry. You can't understand it anyway. Don't waste time." I pretended to be wronged and signed my name. I've seen a lot of people who are courting death, but this is the first time I've seen someone who is in a hurry to court death. At night, I called the director of the orphanage. "Yes, thank you for your concern. My parents are very good to me. My parents said that they are very grateful for your care all these years, so they donated 3 million to the orphanage. It has just been transferred." The director was so excited that he kept thanking me, and it was only after a few minutes that he hung up the phone. It was very quiet at night, and I could even hear my mother talking on the phone in the living room. Although she tried her best to suppress her emotions, I could still feel her anger. No wonder he treats Wendy so well. It turns out she's really his biological daughter. My parents' home has helped him so much. How dare he betray me? Fine, since he dared to bring the bastard in front of me to raise. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Early the next morning, many guests had already arrived at the Duncan family one after another, to celebrate the return of his biological daughter. My father even called over my second uncle, who had separated from the family for many years and had almost no contact with us. In the hall, everyone held champagne and was looking forward to my appearance. After Wendy spent an hour dressing me up, she finally took me to the banquet. Miss Duncan is indeed beautiful. She really looks like the biological daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Duncan. Even though she has been living outside for many years, her temperament is no less than that of Mrs. Duncan when she was young. Everyone smiled politely and flattered my parents. My parents also responded happily, saying those false polite words. But when I gradually walked into the middle of the crowd, a huge beam of light shone down from above my head, and the magnificent evening dress was fully exposed. However, I saw that the smiles on everyone's faces froze for a moment and then turned into ridicule and mockery, although they haven't seen their biological daughter for more than 10 years. There's no need to let her wear a dress with fake diamonds. Right, exactly. The Duncan family is not short of money. Why let their biological daughter wear fake things? I heard that after the Duncan family group was passed on to Vincent, it has long been outwardly strong but inwardly weak. Maybe it's even more difficult now, so they can only use fake diamonds to maintain their dignity. Old Master Duncan has bad judgment. He should have passed it on to the second son in the first place. And that gemstone necklace around her neck, isn't that just glass? The children raised at home are more sensible. Look at Wendy, she's dressed appropriately and not ostentatious, and she didn't embarrass the family. Gossip spread everywhere, and my parents' faces turned extremely ugly. They stared closely at the diamonds on my dress, and their faces turned even darker. That's right, all the diamonds on it were fake, so fake that they could be seen at a glance. But Wendy knew that I rarely even saw clean white rice, let alone distinguish between real and fake diamonds, so she dared to brazenly replace the diamonds on my dress with fake ones, just like in my previous life. Amidst the ridicule of everyone, my parents walked up to me with cold faces and, in a low voice, questioned Wendy, who was in charge of dressing me up. What's going on? Where's my gemstone necklace? She looked very aggrieved. Mom and Dad, I don't know what happened. After I helped sister change her clothes yesterday, she was the one who put away the dress. As for that gemstone necklace, sister didn't even let me touch it. After counting to 3 silently, Lucas came over with a look of hating iron for not becoming steel. Sister, I advised you yesterday not to sell the diamonds and Mom's necklace. He took out a purchase list. It said that 10 blue diamonds and a gemstone necklace were sold to a jewelry store by me for $5 million. At the very bottom of the list, not only was the seal of the jewelry store stamped, but also my own signature. Sister, you're so silly. We know you've had a tough life outside all these years, but now you're home, Mom, Dad, and we will make it up to you, no matter what. You can't steal the diamonds from home and sell them. What's more, there's Mom's necklace. It was left to her by our grandmother and is of great significance. Fortunately, I secretly bought the necklace back later. After saying that, he handed a gemstone necklace to Mom. She examined it carefully for a few moments. After heaving a sigh of relief, she stared at me coldly. Now, with ironclad evidence, they couldn't hold back anymore. Their disappointed eyes were filled with anger. They tried to keep their voices low, but it was still deafening. Nina, why did you do this? If you needed money, you could have told us. Do you know how embarrassed you've made us with your petty thievery? You're so vulgar. Go back to your room and reflect right now. The loud voices reached everyone's ears, and many people started laughing. Although she was born into a wealthy family, she doesn't have the qualities. Having been at the bottom for so long, she still doesn't look like a princess even when dressed in fine clothes. Don't let her wear fine clothes. I'm really afraid she'll sell them too. TSK. It shows that genes can't compete with the environment. My second uncle, who had been silent, also burst out laughing. With my brother's genes, how could he have good offspring? If it wasn't for my father's favoritism, the Duncan family group wouldn't have declined in his hands. My father's face turned red with anger. He glared fiercely at my second uncle, while my mother gave Lucas an impatient look. A smug smile flashed across Lucas's face, and he said calmly, Sister, I'll take you back to your room first. After that, he bowed apologetically to everyone. Sorry, my sister has endured a tough life outside. When she came back, we arranged a medical examination for her. The doctor said she has serious psychological problems. It's understandable that she did these things. I apologize to Mom, Dad, and everyone on my sister's behalf. The atmosphere eased a lot, my second uncle said proudly. Although Lucas is just an adopted son, he has great bearing. Isn't he much better than a biological child? The conversation of the crowd centered around Lucas again, praising him for his achievements at a young age, as if nothing had happened just now. I have psychological problems, and there is a perfect excuse for all the things I've done and all the shame I've brought to the family. My parents naturally wouldn't miss this perfect opportunity to save face. Yes, we're treating her. Lucas became even more complacent and grabbed my hand tightly. He wanted to take me back to the room, just like in the previous life. After the banquet, my parents would spread the news that I had a mental illness. Then, I would have restless sleep for a month amidst my parents' furious scolding. Subsequently, after being framed by them, I would be disliked and even abandoned by my parents. Finally, under the influence of the spices, I would start to doubt whether I was really sick, until I became mentally deranged and died with grievances unredressed. I don't want to go through that pain again. Fortunately, I was well prepared. The next moment, a photography team arrived uninvited. Which one is Miss Nina? We're from the TV station, invited by the director of the Welfare Institute. We'd like to interview you about your kind act of donating money yesterday. Our society needs kind-hearted people like you. We hope to publicize this matter widely. Your good deeds should be known by more people. Everyone looked confused. Only after the reporters explained did they learn that I had donated $3 million to the Welfare Institute last night. After a moment of confusion, my parents took the microphone happily and excitedly. In fact, what the guests said earlier was right. The Duncan family group is indeed outwardly strong but inwardly weak now. They wouldn't miss any opportunity to make a comeback. Yes, as soon as we heard about the difficult conditions of the Welfare Institute, we spontaneously asked her to make the donation. We've also experienced the loss of a daughter, and we hope all children can have a good life. We've actually been planning this for a long time. We intend to donate 10% of the group's annual income to welfare institutions. The two of them talked a lot in front of the media, making it sound so real. Without noticing that the adopted son and daughter looked extremely ugly, when they had had enough, they turned around and looked at me with delighted eyes, full of hints. Nina is as kind-hearted as we are. Maybe she sold those diamonds for charity. Seeing that I didn't respond, my parents' hinting eyes became even more eager, but I changed the subject. But I didn't do any of these things at all. After that, I took out my phone and played a video for everyone. It was the scene of Lucas tricking me into signing in the jewelry store. I just bought this phone then and found video recording very novel, so I kept it on. Of course, I also recorded the process of my brother coaxing me to sign the contract. After that, I looked at Lucas with a puzzled face. Brother, it's already so hard for me to come back home. Why are you still targeting me? At this point, everything was clear. The crowd stared at Lucas with contempt. I really thought he had great bearing, but it turns out he's so scheming, an adopted son forcing the biological daughter like this. He really doesn't know his place. He's so bad at such a young age. What will he be like when he grows up? He was stunned for a moment, frowned, and spoke in a flustered tone. No, I didn't. It wasn't like that at the time. Nina is the scheming one. Otherwise, how could she have just happened to record it? This video is edited. But he couldn't produce any evidence, and every one of his rebuttals was so feeble. Slap, a clear and loud slap landed on Lucas's face. How could you frame your sister? My father was extremely furious, his eyes filled with disgust. Lucas was completely stunned, with his head down. No one knew what he was thinking. The reporters kept taking pictures of Lucas. While Wendy was ignored, I didn't want to let down her elaborate dressing. Facing the camera, I said again, I'm not like Wendy. I can't comfortably wear expensive dresses and mink coats and always be mom and dad's little princess. Maybe that's why my brother looks down on me. My sad words made the reporters turn their attention to Wendy. Her seemingly plain dress sparkled with various colors under the light. Her face changed slightly. To protect Wendy's reputation, my father slapped Lucas again. What right do you have to target Nina? You're such an embarrassment. My mother felt sorry for Lucas and wanted to protect him. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't hit him again. My father lowered his voice and said fiercely, everyone? Who's everyone? Kathy, I did a paternity test between you and this bastard. He's your biological son. I can overlook the fact that we have no feelings and your affairs before marriage. But if this bastard of yours dares to play tricks in front of me and disrupt our family, don't blame me for being ruthless. My mother gritted her teeth and gave him a glare. Do you think I don't know? I also have the paternity test report between you and Wendy. If you can have a child with another woman, why can't I? If you dare to touch Lucas, Wendy won't have a good time either. My father stared at her intently but didn't take any further action. He just gave the guests a cold smile. I'm sure everyone is tired. We won't keep you any longer. The guests left on their own. In the midst of the mess, my father collapsed on the sofa, rubbing his temples. Lucas stood there silently, occasionally casting gloomy glances at me. Wendy carefully observed everyone's expressions. When she met my mother's cold gaze, she suddenly trembled all over. Suddenly, my mother spoke. This isn't all Lucas's fault. Wendy was in charge of Nina's dress, so she's also involved. Wendy showed a surprised expression. No, Mom, I don't know anything about it. My mother sneered. Lucas wasn't there at all when you two were changing clothes yesterday. If you hadn't instigated him, how could he have done so many things in such a short time? Wendy, you'd better not lie to me. You're still too young for that. When I was wronged in the previous life, none of them analyzed the whole thing or tried to clear my name. To put it bluntly, what they really loved were the illegitimate children they raised by their side. As long as I'm not involved in certain things, they will naturally attack each other for the sake of their illegitimate children. Wendy's pupils shrank. She was obviously intimidated by my mother's cold attitude, but she still put on a wronged expression and cried, I really didn't do it. It was all my brother's doing. Brother was afraid that after sister came back, she would compete with him for the family property. So he did this. Hearing this, a look of shock and disappointed betrayal flashed in Lucas's eyes. But before he could speak, slap, my mother slapped Wendy directly. Shut up. As long as I'm here, you have no right to speak. Wendy covered her face and burst into tears. My father smashed the cup on the tea table and pointed at my mother through gritted teeth. This is the Duncan family. It's not your place to act recklessly. Now, take this bastard and get out of here. My mother sneered. You're a good-for-nothing who depends on my family. If you hadn't begged my parents to marry me to you, you wouldn't have been able to take over the Duncan family group, and you definitely wouldn't be living here. You're the one who should get out. The two of them had a big fight, and the illegitimate children were too scared to say a word. Watching them tear each other apart completely, I finally felt at ease. Finally, my mother couldn't take it anymore and left with Lucas, looking at my father, whose face was ashen with anger. I pretended to be curious and said, Dad, actually, Lucas is quite connected to our family. Look, although he looks a lot like Mom, in fact, his eyes and mouth are almost exactly like yours. With my unintentional reminder, my father finally seemed to realize something. He sat up from the sofa abruptly, his eyes so cold that they seemed ready to kill. At night, I heard him on the balcony making a phone call. Yes, help me investigate carefully. When she was reported to be abroad by the media before, did she still maintain contact with Simon? I heard that Simon hasn't left J City yet. Keep an eye on the area around his hotel for a few days. And I also secretly called my mother. Mom, can you sleep well outside? Dad is throwing a tantrum at home, saying he wants to have someone investigate Simon. Who is Simon? My mother stammered. Nina, be good at home. Don't believe what your father said. I have to hang up now. What happened at the banquet went viral on the internet overnight. Lucas embarrassed the Duncan family thoroughly and was severely criticized by netizens. My actions, on the other hand, helped my parents regain some face. This farce was attributed to, the parents' education is not the main problem, it's the low character of the adopted son. My father has hardly been home these days, but when we occasionally meet, he still gives me approving looks, thanks to you. Otherwise we'd all be in trouble this time. A few days later, the public opinion about the Duncan family gradually subsided, but the Duncan family group was on the trending list again. My father consulted a lawyer. With the approval of the board of directors, he made a will. After his death, all his property and the shares of the Duncan family group would be divided equally between me and Wendy. On the same day, my mother, whom I hadn't seen for a week, came home angrily. I don't agree. Everything you have now is thanks to my family. It's okay if you give the money to Nina, but don't even think about giving it to that bastard. My father sneered and said, it's my money, what does it have to do with you? Anyway, your bastard won't get another penny from me. Then, he took out his phone and showed my mother the screen. The video of her having an affair with my second uncle was very clear. And it also contained her words about plotting to drug my father, Kathy. I underestimated you. You actually wanted to drug me and murder your husband. You should know what the consequences would be if I handed this video over to the police, so just leave with nothing, or not only will you be disgraced, but your so-called family won't have a good time either. My mother's face grew uglier and uglier. Finally, she gritted her teeth unwillingly and said, "Fine, you win," before she left. Wendy smugly opened the door for her. "Mom, Auntie. Have a nice trip, remember not to mess with me again," or the video in Dad's hand. My mother gave her a fierce glare. I couldn't help but gasp for Wendy. How dare Wendy provoke a woman who conspired with her lover to kill her husband? I quietly went back to my room and called one of Lucas's friends. $500,000 has been transferred. Don't forget to remind him that my mother doesn't have many shares, but my father is different. He's the major shareholder of the Duncan family group. He has no blood relation with my father, so tell him to bow to Wendy. What's a little friction, in the face of money? Bowing to someone you have an affair with is not a difficult thing, right? My parents got divorced, and my mother left the house with nothing. The price was that my father deleted all the videos and photos. Now, regarding my father's will, my mother no longer has the right to speak. Wendy and I were officially established as the heirs of the Duncan family group. However, the day after the news was released, the Duncan family group was trending on the internet again. Several photos of Wendy at the banquet were enlarged, and her luxurious clothes and jewelry were all priced. At her sister's welcome banquet. Who is she dressing up so flamboyantly for? This girl's little thoughts are all written on her face. Who doesn't know what she's up to? My father was dissatisfied with the netizens' comments, so Wendy tried to clarify the situation online herself. But with just a few words from her, how could she compete with my hired internet trolls? Look at Wendy's luxurious appearance. Tisk, if her parents were really as kind-hearted and benevolent as they claim, would they raise a child like this? I was classmates with her for a few years. I know that she is not only wasteful but also arrogant and domineering. She bullied her classmates at school, and just because her family is rich, these things were all suppressed, except for the biological child who wasn't raised in the Duncan family. Are there any good people left in this family? Would you really dare to buy the things sold by these people? I definitely wouldn't. In my previous life, I was the one who was criticized and attacked by netizens. I spent countless nights looking at those vicious words and crying my eyes out, but the more I tried to clarify, the more malicious the online comments towards me became. In the end, photos of me picking up water bottles near the orphanage and wolfing down hard steamed buns were all over the internet. They called me the trash young lady. Eventually, I couldn't bear the pressure and became mentally deranged. It was only after my death that I found out that Wendy was behind all of this. Now, I'm going to pay her back double. I had people search everywhere for Wendy's negative information. Thanks to her malicious nature, there was a lot of dirt on her. She couldn't clarify the situation. The more she tried to cover it up, the more netizens disliked her. As a result, even the stock market of the Duncan family group was affected. My father also hired internet trolls. But he couldn't suppress the public opinion at all. It seemed that there was a greater force fueling the flames, of course. Although my mother left the house with nothing, she is still the daughter of the Chen family. She still has the money to hire internet trolls. Finally, my father lost his patience. After severely scolding Wendy, he also suspended her credit card. Wendy was furious. She pointed at me and started questioning. "Nina, you did all of this, didn't you? Why are you doing this to me? I was so good to you. I gave you the big room. And I sneered coldly. Were you really good to me? Since you think the big room is so good, why didn't you live in it yourself? Why were the diamonds on the evening dress you left with me sold by Lucas? You can deceive me, but don't deceive yourself." Suddenly, she stopped acting crazy and stopped pretending. She stared at me intently. "You won't win. I'm Dad's favorite child, and you'll never surpass me. My mother died during childbirth when she gave birth to me. She died at the age when my father loved her the most, for several days. Wendy didn't take any action against me. She just spent all day holding a photo of her mother and crying in front of my father. If Mom were still alive, would I not have to live such a hard life? Dad, I don't want you to hate me. I can leave here, as long as it can make you a little happier." At first, my father was unmoved, and any occasional moment of softness was quickly replaced by the declining market value of the company. Later, After she had a high fever that wouldn't subside after eating the food I cooked and was diagnosed with food poisoning by the doctor, the way my father looked at me changed, and he began to feel sorry for her again. We're a family, and we should help each other in the future. I just pretended not to understand what he meant. I hired more internet trolls and quietly cooperated with my mother to smear him and Wendy online. At the same time, through the efforts of my mother's family, the news of Lucas's engagement to the daughter of the Johnson family group spread throughout the city. The marriage alliance between the Taylor family and the Johnson family was very glamorous for a while. Everyone knew that my parents had parted on bad terms, and most people decisively chose to side with the Taylor family. Vincent, seeing the deteriorating situation of the Duncan family group, finally couldn't bear the high pressure. He swayed on his feet and finally collapsed. In Wendy's flustered gaze, I directly called the family doctor over. After Dr. Bob gave a few injections, my father slowly regained consciousness. "Mr. Duncan, have you been using spices excessively recently? Your symptoms seem to be like those of poisoning." My father gasped when he heard this. "Poisoning? No wonder I've been feeling dizzy recently. So it's poisoning. Did Kathy do this? But didn't she fail to drug me?" Dr. Bob said according to the lines I had prepared in advance. "Judging from your pulse, it seems that you were poisoned recently. We'd better find the source of the poisoning first so that we can prescribe the right medicine." Glancing at Wendy's guilty expression, I pretended to just remember and said, "Dr. Bob, why don't you search our house? As far as I remember, the only things with a fragrance are my mother's perfume, cosmetics, and things like aromatherapy." "Oh, right. And the pillow my sister gave me." Wendy let out a scream. "No, you can't." My father turned his head and stared at her, looking suspicious. She then realized that she had lost her composure and forced a smile. "Dad, you must be tired. How can feeling unwell be considered poisoning? Just take a good rest, and you'll definitely get better." Before my father could think about it, I had already retorted, "It's just a matter of looking for something. It doesn't take much effort. Why are you so flustered, sister? What are you trying to hide?" She was about to say something more, but my father's face had already darkened. "Dr. Bob, go and bring the pillow here." Half an hour later, Dr. Bob walked up to my father with the pillow. "Mr. Duncan, it's indeed the pillow's problem. There are a large number of hallucinogenic spices in it, and it's very difficult for Western medicine to detect them. But since you've been using it for a long time, I'm afraid it's hard to cure." I was extremely surprised. "Sister, how could you put poison in the pillow?" She shook her head. No, I didn't. It was you. You put the spices in it yourself." I said, "You sewed this pillow yourself. It can be seen at a glance if anyone has taken it apart and put new spices in it." My father examined it carefully and found that there were indeed no signs of it having been taken apart. His eyes were full of anger. "I've always been lenient and doting on you for your mother's sake. I thought you were innocent and kind, but I didn't expect you to be so vicious. You even dared to poison your own father." She started crying. "Dad, I didn't mean to harm you. I just wanted." "This pillow was originally for sister. She gave it to you." I sneered. "So, you wanted to harm me, even if your original intention wasn't to harm Dad. You had countless opportunities to take the pillow away or remind Dad not to use it anymore. Why didn't you? You just wanted to let things take their course and let Dad be poisoned. What, if Dad dies, you can inherit the estate smoothly." These words directly stimulated my father. He slapped her in the face and gritted his teeth, saying, "Get out of here. I never want to see you again. Not a single penny of my money has anything to do with you." Wendy covered her face and shouted, "Don't you forget that my mother died giving birth to me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be an illegitimate child and would never be able to show my face in the world. How dare you drive me away?" My father slapped her again. Get out. If I had known that your mother would give birth to someone like you, I wouldn't have felt sorry even if she had died 100 times. She suddenly laughed maniacally and said viciously, "I'm the only one who knows the specific formula of these spices. Without the formula, you can't detoxify. If you don't give me the money, you might as well just wait to die." Seeing that my father was about to waver, I said, "Dad, why don't you apologize to your sister and ask for the antidote?" Apologize? How could a father apologize to his daughter who tried to kill him, and in front of another daughter? The man, who was already mentally unstable, couldn't accept this at all. His face immediately turned gloomy, and he stared at Wendy intently. "Then let's see if you starve to death on the street or if I'm poisoned to death by you first. We'll see." There was no need to wait and see. That night, I saw her make a phone call and then rush out of the house in a hurry. An hour later, a friend I had placed beside Lucas sent me a video. It was a picture of Wendy and Lucas hugging each other. Brother, I was so scared at that time that I pushed the blame onto you. I didn't answer your calls a few days ago because there were too many things going on at home, and I was afraid that my dad would get angry if he found out. It's not that I don't want to share the shares of the Duncan family with you, but now that old bastard won't leave the inheritance to me. Lucas forced a smile and comforted her. We were both schemed against by that bitch Nina. How could I blame you? If it weren't for her, how could my mother have left the house with nothing? How could she have made me marry that 200-pound pig from the Johnson family in order to get the shares of the Taylor family? Don't worry, once we get the support of the Taylor family and the Johnson family, it will be much easier to deal with her. After watching the video, I felt extremely disgusted. I secretly sneaked into my father's computer and retrieved the videos of my mother and my second uncle. That's right. All the videos that my father promised my mother to delete were still intact on the computer. Then, I posted all the videos online. My mother's reputation on the internet plummeted rapidly. People mocked my mother as the modern-day bitch, and the disgusting relationship between the illegitimate children was even more unbearable for netizens to look at. It was indeed disgusting. In my previous life, after my parents went on a trip, when I found them having an affair in the study, I vomited until I was dizzy. In order to hide their secret, they covered my mouth and submerged me in the bathtub for several hours, making me suffocate again and again. I didn't want to suffer anymore, so I chose to end my own life. In this life, I'm going to tear off their fig leaf and let everyone see their sordid deeds. Soon, the Johnson family group canceled the engagement and threatened to ban my mother and Lucas. This mother and son completely became the laughingstock of J City. Then, I called my mother and told her about what had happened recently. Mom, I'm so scared. Won't Wendy hurt me? If she doesn't give the antidote, will my dad really die? My mother was silent on the other end of the phone for a long time. I could feel her suppressed excitement. Don't worry, Nina, you're my biological daughter, and I won't leave you alone. That bastard Vincent, he clearly promised me to delete the videos, but he actually dared to stab me in the back. Now that I have nothing, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm going to get rid of them all. I burst into tears. But if Dad dies, will he leave all the inheritance to Wendy? Then I'll have nothing. By the way, Wendy seems to have driven that sports car to find Brother. Can you ask Brother to persuade Wendy? Wendy died in a car accident. I reported my mother immediately, and she was directly sent to prison. She won't have a chance to get out in this lifetime. And my father's condition got worse and worse. In the end, he was almost out of his mind, but I always took care of him. Now he trusts me completely and has almost entrusted all matters to me. The people from the board of directors just called and said that your health is not good now. If you haven't made a will, according to the law, your property may be inherited jointly by Lucas and me. By the way, my second uncle also called just now. He said that if you die, Lucas's share will belong to him. You've lost this life after all. Sigh, how could my second uncle be like this? I heard that Lucas has already started calling him Dad. My father was so angry that his throat made a hoarse sound. In the end, he asked me to find a lawyer. I knew that the will I wanted was finally going to be made. Later, one late night, my father spent a lot of money to have someone kidnap Lucas. After he personally cut off the flesh on Lucas's body one knife at a time in the basement. He directly turned himself in. Ha ha ha, if I can't live a good life, you don't want to leave a bastard to disgust me either. Before long, he was sent to a mental hospital. 3 months later, he also committed suicide by jumping off a building in the mental hospital. I stood not far away and watched him fall and turn into a pile of flesh. Finally, they were all dead. No one could get in my way anymore. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts?